You've not been in aerospace before.
Nope.
You've not been in satellite before.
Nope.
You've not been in defense before.
All true. Honestly, the business is already filled with very intelligent, very experienced aerospace and defense people. That's not what the business needed. What the business needed was a business person, and that's what I am. I think there are so many people in our industry right now that are taking a lot of investment money, which I understand, and they're burning a lot of that capital, right? Trying to go chase something. We're beyond that phase. We're in a completely different cycle or part of the life cycle as a business, and that's what we're super focused on right now.
Hey, Warriors. We've got a special episode I was able to record live in Las Vegas with Peter Krauss, CEO of Terran Orbital, the folks behind CubeSat tech and small-sat innovation. When Lockheed Martin acquired Terran, they skipped over traditional industry picks and went with Peter. Not a traditional aero or defense guy, but an entrepreneur who could shake things up. Terran now operates as Lockheed's small-sat division, but here's the twist. They've kept their independence. Rather than getting swallowed up, Terran is actually influencing how Lockheed approaches the changing space industry. Peter calls his approach Terran 2.0, stripping away bureaucracy and getting back to the company's roots. Let's hear how this industry outsider is mixing things up in aerospace. Welcome, Peter.
Good afternoon, Catherine. How are you?
I am doing well. This is so much fun to do it outside in Las Vegas in person. I don't get to do that too often.
I know. I'm happy to be doing it in person. It's great.
Absolutely. Okay, the question everybody wants to know.
Sure.
You're not an aero and defense guy. How'd you get the gig? Why'd they pick you?
Guilty as charged. First of all, I don't know how much I want to tug at this thread, so I'm
Fair
kind of
enough,
happy with the
fair
gig.
enough.
But no, all joking aside, it was done very deliberately, and credit to Lockheed Martin, if I dare say, for the pick. I think it was a bold one, but a smart one. Honestly, the business is already filled with very intelligent, very experienced aerospace and defense people. That's not what the business needed. What the business needed was a business person, and that's what I am. So my focus is obviously on all aspects of the operation. How do we improve? How do we get better? How do we scale? How do we grow? And that's what the business needed. Not another career aerospace guy, respectfully to all my aerospace friends.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
How has being an outsider in this industry been an advantage in this transformation stage you're bringing TO into?
Well, I mean, since Terran Orbital's origins, the premise was always to be a disruptor, to be a challenger of the status quo. And as being an outsider, that comes naturally for me, because I'm asking the question, why do we do it this way? Why do we always do it this way? You're always asking those challenging why questions that somebody who might have been in the industry for 20, 30, 40 years, again, all respect to their experience, their background, and everything they bring to the table, but they're used to doing things a certain way, and we're trying to do it a very different way.
Let's face it, we can all get stale.
Yeah, it happens.
If we sing the same
Happens
song.
to the best of us.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me about Terran 2.0. What does that mean, and how is it related to the original innovative spirit of the company?
Yeah. So I've affectionately coined our transformation, as I'm calling it, Terran 2.0. But if I'm being really honest, it's really a throwback to our origins as a company. Again, we were meant to be a market disruptor, to be a change agent within the industry as a whole. And that's what we're getting back to. As we were growing and scaling as a business over the last 3 or 4 years before our merger with Lockheed, my predecessor in the organization were very focused on scale and growth. So what do you naturally do? You bring in a lot of aerospace people from a lot of other primes, right? So you bring in people from Northrop, from Boeing, from even Lockheed and other organizations. And it's great that you gain all that experience and that knowledge, but what do you also bring? You bring that culture. You bring some of the bureaucracy that comes along with that. And Terran, in my opinion, respectfully started getting off course, a bit off path, and started becoming very much like the companies they were trying not to be like. So Terran
They brought everybody from the same
Correct.
primes.
So from the inside out, the organization started to adopt some of those same principles, beliefs, processes, workflows. Now at Terran 2.0, what we're trying to get back to, and we're doing so, I believe, very successfully, to the roots of being a market disruptor and a change agent.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We're very excited about it.
Tell me about the leadership moves you're making.
Sure.
I keep seeing new posts. You've been filling out this team. How are you doing it differently, and what do you look for in the team around you?
Yeah. So, again, being myself a change agent, I'm looking for other change agents, people that are within our own business and who are going to challenge the status quo, both inside and outside. That doesn't come easy, right? Because people are afraid of change and they're afraid to be even labeled as a change agent. But that's what I'm looking for when I'm interviewing people, when I'm first screening people. It's
Because let's face it, change agent
yeah,
has a couple of
yeah,
connotations,
absolutely. That's where I was going.
and not everybody likes. I mean, a lot of times the turnaround guy is not the guy that's nice that wants to stick around.
Sure. No, and I had to address that myself. So throughout my career, I have become recognized as a change agent, but one that sticks with it. Even in my consultancy practice, I would come in, help companies do a turnaround, but then you parachute out and you exit that business. I much prefer being in the business, in the four walls, identifying the changes that are needed, but
Mhm.
then actually executing the change. I get way more pleasure out of executing the change than identifying the change that's needed. And again, I'm looking for other operators and people that have that similar or same mindset when I'm recruiting the leaders that are around me. And it's for me, I'm looking at aptitude as a huge part of it. We could teach people a lot. Anything can be learned, anything can be taught. But if
Mhm.
you have the right aptitude and the right attitude, to me, that's 90% of it. The rest of the blanks we can fill in.
Yeah. You can teach the skills, but the attitude you can't.
Yeah. I mean, there are certain soft skills that a person either has. They either have the right IQ, EQ, all the Qs,
Mhm.
right? Or they don't. Can't teach that. I'm
Yeah.
not even going to try to teach that.
Mhm.
If they come with that, then the rest I think is easily taught. And then you get people that also come up in your environment that are willing to adopt your culture, because I'm a big culture guy. That's a huge part of what we're focused on in Terran 2.0
Mhm.
is getting the right mix of lean into going fast, right? The old, you got to break a lot of eggs to make an omelet, right? Expression.
And defense is not known for its speed.
It's not, but I think everyone, if you're paying attention, is realizing that the speed of proliferation of space is changing at, some people have said, an alarming rate. I don't think it's an alarming rate. I think it's what the industry needs and what the industry is calling for. And from our origin as Terran Orbital, we've always leaned into that, and we've always said it could be done faster. You don't have to sacrifice quality.
Mhm.
You don't have to sacrifice capability, but you could still get things faster. Lockheed Martin, our parent company now, builds exquisite, beautiful technical marvels. There's no denying it. But they build a school bus size satellite once every 5 to 10 years that generally costs billions of dollars. That's not where certain agencies and certain government programs are right now. They want many more satellites, much faster, and a lot less expensive. And the manufacturing processes are different. Everything's different. And that's where we lean into it. And that's where we come in.
Mhm. Now, speaking of Lockheed,
Yeah.
you'd mentioned that Lockheed is aligning with Terran Orbital,
Yeah.
not the other way around. I
Yeah.
think there was an industry perception that Terran Orbital would lose its name and
Yeah.
be a sub within a much larger organization.
No, look, I give a lot of credit to the leadership at Lockheed Martin and to the people that I interact with. And I mean that sincerely. From the beginning, their business case for this acquisition, this merger of the two companies, was that Terran Orbital needed to remain an independent, wholly owned subsidiary, arm's length or more. We had to be an independent merchant supplier to the industry, not just a supplier to Lockheed. And everything and every action we've taken since the merger back in November has been true to that. So all credit to them, right? It could be easy to come in, do a purchase, completely assimilate the company, do a complete takeover. We've been going to great pains to make sure that doesn't happen and that Terran remains independent. And you mentioned Lockheed aligning with us instead of us aligning with Lockheed. That was a statement that our president of space, Robert Lightfoot, made. And I want to be clear on what that meant. What that meant from a small sat perspective in particular,
Mhm.
we bring something very unique to the table. And Lockheed Martin Space is working to have a mutual alignment, right, between the two groups.
Mutual alignment.
Mutual alignment. So
What
that
does
we,
that
I
mean?
don't know. It's a cool word. I just made it up, I think. But no, we want to make sure that there are synergies that are realized, that we're very much collaborating, playing to our strengths, covering for each other's weaknesses. That's how great teams work, right? And that's what we're determined to do. And, we're only X number of months into this. Again, the deal closed November 1st, but it's been an exceptional partnership so far.
Mhm.
The collaboration's been candidly even surprisingly good.
In terms of the collaboration piece,
Sure.
you have just named a lot of new people in leadership roles.
Hmm.
Big names too.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thanks.
How has your outside industry experience influenced those picks? And seeing that you're new to the industry,
Hmm.
What do you think the industry needs most right now?
Well, a lot to unpack in that question. So, what I'm looking for again are those people that are willing to challenge the status quo, that even if they came with a pedigree of 10, 15, 20, 30 years at another company,
Mhm.
that the reason they were looking for a change, the reason they were looking to make a move is because they wanted to get out of that rut.
Dissatisfied.
Yeah, they were not happy with their current situation. They were
Mhm.
not happy with the current trajectory of the company they're leaving. And they see us as an opportunity and a vehicle to do things differently inside the space industry. So that's the first thing, right? So the first question I ask is why Terran Orbital, right? Why are you interested in us? How much do you know about us? And why are you looking to leave what you're currently doing? Because
Mhm.
everybody we just recently onboarded came from another company.
Yeah, and I work with CEOs in
Sure,
your position that tell me, "Catherine, I do not want somebody out of the prime," because there's a perception
sure.
that this is the way we've always done it,
Mhm.
and it's gonna be kind of a stale
Yeah.
philosophy, that kinda thing. But you're saying, "Hey, look beyond that. Look at the motives for making that change."
Yeah, I'm looking for the right fit in the individual again, with an emphasis right now on culture. For me, for them to make it to me in an interview, they've already checked all the appropriate boxes in terms of background, skill set,
Mm.
education, et cetera. If they're in the room with me and we're having a conversation about them joining our leadership team, whether it be executive leadership or senior leadership, I assume all those things to some extent, and now it's about fit.
Mhm.
Is this somebody that I want to work with day in and day out in the trenches, fighting the fight, as we're looking to change space forever? Do you believe in that mission? Do you really have the same energy and passion for that mission or not? Or are you just looking for a seat, or are you just looking for a job? And we can all very quickly, I can anyway, deduce which it is.
Mhm.
But I don't hold it against somebody if they've been at a particular prime. Our new SVP of F&BO spent over 30 years at Boeing. So it would be easy to say he's somewhat
No,
institutionalized.
I've had hiring managers that say, "Yeah, any more than 7 years at a prime, I'm not
Right.
interested." Yeah, you're
No, yeah.
saying, "Hey, you're cutting yourself short.
Yeah,
Look past that."
I think you're definitely cutting yourself short. I think you're
Mhm.
leaving potentially really good candidates who see the need for the change, or excited about the opportunity to do things a bit differently. And I can tell you that that person I'm referencing, our F&BO SVP, he's only been with us about a month and a half and is giddy as a school kid because he sees how fast we move, how quick we make decisions, how decisive we are, and we're also willing to say, you know what, we got that one wrong, and we're willing to do a quick 180 if necessary. And as a smaller company, smaller compared to Lockheed,
Mhm.
big Lockheed, smaller than obviously Boeing or Northrop, we're able to make those decisions quickly and make a decisive change of direction if necessary.
Mhm.
He came from an environment where it took a committee talking to another committee, talking to another committee,
5 bosses to approve.
right, to get through and make a
Mm.
change. That's not how we operate at Terran.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
12 months from today, what would success look like for you?
We will have, at least from a culture standpoint, completed our Terran 2.0 sort of initiative. We will have shaken off sort of the dysfunctions of, or sins even, of the past. We'll be hyper focused on our future, just looking forward, and I'm excited about that. We will have won a couple of new programs, right, that we'll be very focused on and working on, both in DoD and in the commercial space in particular. And we will have a well positioned, solidified, lean, mean fighting machine of a team. That's what I'm most excited about, and that's what we've been focused on.
Yeah, absolutely. You've not been in aerospace before.
Nope,
You've not been in satellite before.
nope,
You've not been in defense before.
all true.
How is this industry unique, or is it?
I mean, it's unique in what it manufactures, and I think it's unique in the importance of what it manufactures.
Mhm.
And this is something where Terran and Lockheed are very much aligned, is we never lose sight of the mission.
Mhm.
We always say, and many people in our industry say it, we support the warfighter, right? That's a big priority of what we do. Robert Lightfoot says it very eloquently, that we bring people home with the communications solutions that we provide. So at Terran, just as at big Lockheed, we never forget the mission. So I think from that perspective, what we do is very unique and very important.
Mhm.
Um, and I take that very seriously as the CEO of Terran, because we're not making widgets. We're making very important pieces of tech that serve a very important broader mission and purpose. Beyond that, to me, business is business.
Mhm.
Manufacturing is manufacturing. Yes, at the end of the day, what we manufacture are highly technical, complicated things, but
Mhm.
it's still manufacturing.
What metrics do you look at the most closely?
Right now, my main focus is on the people focus metrics because we're going through such a transformation in terms of
Mhm.
culture and all of that. Beyond that, from a manufacturing metric, it's our throughput and it's our capacity utilization, right? Again, manufacturing is manufacturing.
Mhm.
Those numbers matter. Uh, I love my operational production folks, but production people always want more people, more equipment, more, 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 more. My job as the CEO is to challenge that notion sometimes and say, do you really need those 10 additional people? Do you really need that piece of equipment? Are we fully utilizing who we have and what we have? And if the answers are no, then I'm not going to approve those additional bodies or that additional piece of equipment. So those are the metrics and the KPIs that I'm probably most focused on.
Mhm. Is that what you think every CEO should be most focused on?
I mean, it's not my place to tell every other CEO how to run their business. I personally think those are important metrics. Everybody's business is uniquely different, and everybody's sort of at a different stage of the life cycle. Although we're effectively a 12-year-old company, Terran Orbital, we joke we're kind of an old startup because we had a
An old startup.
we had a very startup mentality
I had
where
not heard that about Terran Orbital yet, but,
yeah,
I'll take it.
no, it really is. So, and I'm going to say this very candidly. Sometimes the startup moniker is used as a defense for not having mature and defined processes and procedures.
Oh, all the time.
I'm a startup, so I'm just scrappy. Well, what is
We're
scrappy?
scrappy and we're nimble and we're
Correct.
fierce and we're broke.
Exactly. And we're burning through a lot of cash.
Right.
We're on the other side of this journey right now where it's like, okay, we burned through the money. We went through several iterations of who we are, what we are as a company. We decided what we wanted to be.
Time to be grown-ups.
Exactly. We decided what we want to be when we grow up.
Mhm.
Now we're there. Now we have the support and the backing of Lockheed. And now it's get on with it,
Yeah.
right?
Let's add some value.
It's add value. Let's bring things to market that are meaningful. Let's be fast and nimble and flexible and all those things. Those are all valuable things, but let's do so with a certain rigor and discipline that we didn't have before. And that's Terran 2.0.
Mhm. You're in Vegas.
Yep.
Terran Orbital is not.
Yes.
We're seeing a lot of people move their teams back in office 3 to 5 days a week. Tell me about your approach on that.
Yeah, so we're sitting in Vegas. It just happens that we're both in Vegas this week, so
It
that worked out
is.
nicely.
Post-Space Symposium,
I
it's
actually
wonderful.
spend the majority of my time in Irvine, where we're headquartered.
Mhm.
I believe I need to be there where my team is. I come back and forth as needed or appropriate. We have a really strict work in office policy. So post COVID, we brought everybody back into the office. We allow some work from home, some remote work where appropriate. We have a rule around if you're X number of miles from one of our locations,
Mhm.
we'll make the accommodation for you to work remote or work from home.
But in general, you're a fan of bringing people back.
I think people need to be in the office where they can collaborate. You can never underestimate the value of those impromptu sort of break room, water cooler conversations. Being able to get in a room and even bang heads sometimes, right, to come to a consensus or an agreement on something. Yeah, there's a lot you can do by Teams and by Zoom. Okay, we all get that. Technology
We
is
did
great.
that.
Yeah, but we're over that. So yeah, we work in a collaborative office environment.
Mhm. So I know in your career, you were the first at a lot of things.
Yeah.
One of the youngest CEOs I know, etc. How does being the first, do you think, give you a unique perspective, particularly coming into Terran Orbital as the first outsider
Right.
without industry experience? How does that give you an advantage?
Um,
Or does it?
I think it does, and I think again, it's not to be redundant, but I think again that challenging of the status quo, we're not stuck. We don't come in with any biases. People that come from industry, they've stubbed their toe once or 10 or 100 times.
Yeah.
So
Where did that come from for you, though? Like being the first and having that drive?
I've wow, I've always been an overachiever, I guess, is the easiest way to answer
I thought
that
you were going to say
question.
because you were a New Yorker.
Well, that's part of it. I think that New York edge, I'll take that.
Yeah.
No, I think always just trying to overachieve. It's just a personality trait. It's just who I am. It's what I am.
Do you look for that in interviews?
I love the challenge, and I look for somebody who's looking to accept the challenge as well, who's more focused on risk mitigation than risk avoidance.
Mhm.
There's a big difference. I find a lot of people, especially at certain stages in their career, as I interview leaders, they're afraid to take risks because they're afraid of how that's going to impact their public perception,
Well, in military, you got severe penalties if you
Yeah.
take a risk and it
And it
fails.
fails. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, when you're playing with life and death situations, that's different.
Right,
Yeah.
but I mean, culturally, how can that not carry over into the business world?
Yeah, but you have to understand your environment, right?
Mhm.
And you have to understand what the risks are. That's one of the things that we could do within Terran, right? That we're aligning with Lockheed. Most of the big primes tend to be more risk adverse, right? Where we're about managing the risk versus avoiding the risk.
Mhm.
It's the same thing I look for in the leaders. And I think coming in as an outsider, to get back to your question,
Do you
that's
think you have a stronger risk appetite?
absolutely.
Mhm.
And being an entrepreneur for 30 plus years, risk is in your DNA. You
Well, you're
have to be
putting up your
willing.
own money. A lot of people have never done that.
Correct. You're putting skin in the game. You're taking risk. You're not
Mhm.
just playing with other people's money. And that's the way I look at it. Every dollar I invest, every dollar I spend, I look at it as if it was my own money, because there have been times it was my money.
Oh,
And
like, I'm a small business owner.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know what that feels like.
Like if your eye is on payroll, thinking about that.
Correct.
Mhm.
Correct. And I think there are so many people in our industry right now that are taking a lot of investment money, which I understand,
Mhm.
and they're burning a lot of that capital, right? Trying to go chase something. We're beyond that phase. We're in a completely different cycle, or part of the life cycle as a business,
Mhm.
and that's what we're super focused on right now.
Mhm. And I think I heard an earlier podcast where you said, "Hey, sometimes I wrote checks my body couldn't cash."
Yeah,
Tell me about that because I'm particularly
sure.
inspired by that quote. Where was it or how did that develop? Or tell me a little bit more.
Yeah, I think early in all of our careers,
Mhm.
there's a place and time where you the old fake it to make it.
Oh, that's a headhunting mantra.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So candidly, throughout my life and throughout my career, I've always
Mhm.
said yes, and then said,
Mhm.
"All right, now I'll figure it out."
Yep.
I'm not afraid of the yes. I'm not.
Have you always figured it out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So far, knock on
You will
knock on something.
continue.
Yes.
You will.
Yeah, I think I have a 30-year plus track record at this point, so I think we're in good shape. But yeah, I think being willing to say yes and then figure it out. That's the writing body, the checks that your body can't cash.
Mhm.
I often say the difference between confidence and arrogance is the ability to pull it off.
The difference between confidence
Yeah,
and arrogance
yeah,
is the ability to pull it off.
yeah. Because if you are boastful and if you say something
That might
bold,
be a post-it note quote. I
that
like
is,
it.
yeah.
I think I should put it on the whiteboard for my team at least.
If you say it and then can't deliver it, you're just being cocky, right? You're just being arrogant. If you say it and you deliver it, I think that's a healthy level of confidence. And there is a distinct difference.
Scoreboard.
Yeah, exactly. The score right there, it says it all. It says it all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Before I let you go,
yeah,
a lot of people that are not CEOs listen to this podcast to understand the CEO's mentality.
sure.
What advice would you give your younger self as you were writing checks your body couldn't cash?
Right. Yeah. Um, I would say just don't let fear be your obstacle, right? We've heard this so many millions of times, right? We could listen to podcasts and inspirational videos and all these things, but at the end of the day, fear is your biggest obstacle that you have to overcome. I've jumped in head first.
Do you think
And
it's the biggest motivator, though?
I think for me it's the biggest motivator, but everybody's wired differently in that
Mhm.
respect.
The fear of failure can be incredibly powerful.
The hardest things I ever did always turned out to be the most fruitful. Always, in all respects, satisfaction as well as financial.
Try hard things.
Try everything. And
Mhm.
especially I tell people when you're young, I have kids that are in their 20s right now. And I'm like, this is your time to try everything.
What do you got to lose?
Experiment. Exactly.
Mhm.
You don't have a family. You don't have a mortgage. You don't have kids. Take the risk now. Try. You'll find what you're passionate about. You'll find what a fit is. But do not be afraid to fail. You have to fail. That's where you'll learn. I mean, I'm sure you've had other people on your podcast that have said this, but we all learn more from our failures than we do our successes. Some people will tell you you learn nothing from success. You learn
I
everything
think
from
that's
failure.
something we need to hear every day.
Yeah. No, it's very, very true. So don't be afraid to fail. Put yourself out there. Take risks. Sometimes it'll be a W. Sometimes it'll be an L. It's okay. It's okay.
Peter, congratulations on taking the helm at Terran Orbital. We are so excited to see what you do over the next 12 months.
Thank you. I appreciate it.